In the studio, Kevin Oakes, he's the chief for the RGV Border Patrol, and on the phone is Western Valley Congressman Henry Cuellar. First, let's go to the chief. How are things going these days? I hear that you're seeing some less numbers than what the peak was some weeks back, Chief. I think the peak, one time I was told, it was 1,500, 2,000 people a day on a weekend. So what did you guys have this past weekend? Did you have a chance to assess that?
It was up there for a while. We were 1,500 every day for weeks on end, and now we're down to a population of about 600 or 700.
Okay.
Although it's a lot of people, it's kind of a nice break for us.
600 to 700 is still a lot. I remember towards the end of last year how surprised we were to have 600 to 700 people as high water marks before the big boil that we recently experienced. So that's still pretty high, 600 to 700, because on average, what was it, like 250, 200 people each day on the weekend that used to be the average for you?
Yeah, more or less. We're still up 85% over last year. It's still significant.
Are you getting a little more room in your detention centers, or are they still pretty full?
That's it's a much better story because, once we had Secretary Johnson come down and once you got all the help and support from Congress and look in terms of looking at, finding additional bed space for the juveniles and opening up a bunch of centers nationwide through Health and Human Services and DOD and Congress and Senate, quite frankly, have been pushing this hard as well. And so it's made a big difference. We're having a population of about 100, 125 daily of unaccompanied juveniles down from populations not too long ago, a month ago, of 2,000. So it's a good story.
That's a huge difference.
Big difference.
And that new center that you have in McAllen, near the southern office for Border Patrol there in south of Ware, I think.
Ware and Ursula.
Yeah, how's that working out for you?
It works out really well. We had a Codell this weekend. We had Congresswoman Buchanan and Poe from Texas and a couple others.
Congressional delegation. I finally figured out what's Codell.
Congressional delegation. Yeah. And so they got to tour and see the population in there, and that's worked out pretty well. Showers, have Health and Human Services. Is the phone ringing off the hook to get more leaders, congressional leaders, to come down here and visit your facilities? Recess comes up pretty quick, so I think we're going to see a lot more.
That's true, yeah. Speaking of Congressman, let's go to the phone line. Western Valley Congressman Henry Cuellar. Henry, happy Monday. Thanks for joining us today. Did you get a chance recently to speak to leaders in Central America about what they need to do to prevent the flow of, especially all these kids that are coming to our area?
Yeah, yes, I did. I got to sit for about an hour talking to the president of Honduras, and we spoke about this, number one. 2 weeks ago, I also was in Honduras and Guatemala talking about exactly this, and we certainly have to say that we can either continue playing defense on the 1-yard line called the U.S.-Mexico border, or we can do it on their 20-yard line. And I think the more we can work with those countries and make sure they take more responsibility, then the better it is. For example, look at this. Honduras has the number one murder capital in the world. But then if you look at Belize, Belize is higher than Guatemala and El Salvador, but you don't talk about too many folks from Belize coming over here, or Nicaragua, or some of the other countries. So, again, we got to work with those countries and make sure that they don't come over here.
Did you get any promises from those leaders as to what they're going to do? PSA campaigns, more patrols? Did they promise anything?
Yes. In fact, one of the things they've started already, and, actually the first ladies, one of them was in McAllen, as you know, First Lady of Honduras, and the other ones have already started a campaign saying, hey, it's dangerous. It's very, very dangerous to make this trek, number one. Number two, even in Guatemala, when we were there, I think, on a Saturday or Sunday, and the legislators I spoke to, they were talking about that following Monday, the next day, they were going to file legislation to make smuggling illegal, give the government power to wiretap the smugglers. They can do that for drugs, but they can't do it for human trafficking.
Yeah, joining us on 710 KURV, Western Valley Congressman Henry Cuellar on the phone line. And here in the studio is the chief for the Rio Grande Valley Border Patrol, Kevin Oakes.
And Congressman Tim Sullivan here, along with those efforts you speak about to reduce the immigration from those three Central American countries, the efforts to get the authorities to do more from their end. The Obama administration has also been pushing the Mexican government to do more to patrol its southern border. Do you see much of a difference being made there at this point?
Yeah, I think Mexico's doing more. But, what's interesting, back in March or April, we were fighting, and I'll say this very gently, the Obama administration, when they wanted to cut half of the funding to Mexico and make cuts to Central America. This is just this March or April of this year in appropriations. Now, we won that fight. We basically said no. We added more money for Mexico, more money for Central America. And actually, that money that we added for Mexico will go to work with Mexico to secure the southern border with Guatemala. And by the way, before my time runs out, I certainly want to say thanks to the chief. He's done a great job. The chief, Commander Harris, Robert Harris, and all the men and women under the circumstances. They've been doing a great job. And you're right, Chief. Folks that have never been to the border, you're going to see a lot more congressmen and senators go down to the border, which is again always good because a lot of those folks have just have no idea what the border means.
Yeah, so they need to see it for themselves. And I got to tell you something, Henry. It's something that we talked about some time back. See how the chief is in the studio, completely open and, honest and just, putting it all out there. By the way, have you had a chance to break that nut at Health and Human Services and get them to open up to the media, to grant interviews, to allow people to go in there, take pictures, and be accountable to the American public that pays their salary? Have you been able to get through to those people?
That is a lot more difficult to deal with. And you're right. Chief Oaks has done a great job. Commander Harris, Secretary Johnson has just been really, really great. He's been very, very good. Department of Homeland Security, they're a very good agency. Health and Human Services, as you know, even when we had the First Lady and we had another member of the appropriations, and we were trying to go to Lackland Air Force.
Yeah, how many hurdles did you have to jump for that?
Oh, it took us about a week and a half, and they finally, literally a day and a half before is when they gave us the okay.
No, sir.
Which is just incredible.
DHS Secretary Johnson appears to be on board with your proposal, Congressman, to make changes in that 2008 law that would send these children back to their home countries in a much faster fashion.
Yes, and in fact, when he met with us at the Blue Dogs, he basically said, "quote Henry, we're on the same page. Okay. You're one step ahead of us on this one." This is from Secretary Johnson, and he understands that. And I think the other thing is, unfortunately, some of my Democrats have been very critical of the Border Patrol. They think that they play judge, executor, everything, and they're wrong. The men and women like Chief Oaks do a good job. And when they talk about Mexicans, they think that they get every single Mexican kid and they throw them away and just put them across the river. But they don't understand that, they go through a protocol of questions. If it's somebody 14 and above, they'll ask them if they want to voluntarily return themselves. And if they do, they hand them over to the Mexican consulate. The Mexican consulate reviews the record and talks to that child. And then there's a process to all this.
But it's a quick process. Within 7 to 10 days, you get a quick decision on what's going on.
I think within 48 hours, for the Mexicans, they do. There's going to be a voluntary procedures. But again, some of my own folks have demonized the Border Patrol, and I disagree with them
irresponsibly.
They're good people.
Do you see anything happening before the August recess, Henry, or do you pick this thing up after everybody comes back?
Well, I hope we. First of all, we should not wait after August. Number one. Number two, we are going to have a vote on the House side, and
this week, because it has to be this week.
Yeah, it has to be by Thursday. That's the traditional time where we head off to the district. So I hope we put some resources. Number one. And number two, that we have a policy change.
Chief Oaks, back to you for one quick second. You're looking forward to help from the National Guard.
Well, so, we've been working with the National Guard for, decades. DOD has been a big supporter, JTF North, and we currently have National Guard flying aircraft in support of Operation Phalanx. And so this has been going on for a long, long time. So any additional support we can get on the border is always welcome as far as we're concerned.
Extra eyes, extra ears. Is that the role for these folks? They're going to be actually on the river calling it in to get you guys to come out, send the units?
Detection and monitoring, and then also flying ISR platforms, those intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance platforms, and then providing some of the services that some of the agents are currently doing and get them back to the border.
Answering phones.
Administrative, logistics.
Going for lunch, washing the cars.
What if they move into the mode of being able to detain?
I don't think that's that's a...
State authority allows them to do that. I think the Adjutant General said they would rather not, but they can. And what if they start moving in that direction?
I think the better direction is, all the certified law enforcement and federal agents doing that as opposed to the national.
And how's DPS helping you right now? You got a big surge of DPS guys helping you as well.
DPS is probably one of the most professional law enforcement agencies I've ever worked with. Great supporters.
All right, sir. Thanks for stopping by, Chief. Good to see you again. That's Border Patrol Chief for the RGV, Kevin Oakes, joining us on 710 KURV. Henry, thank you so much. That's Congressman Henry Cuellar joined us on a phone conversation from Washington. We're running late. Got to take a break, pay some bills, and come back with sports. The time is 7:23 on News Talk 710 KURV. You believe it? We're talking about training camp already for the Cowboys and the Texans. That's next on 710 KURV.